Welcome to Who Wants to Be an Authorpreneur? Did you know that many people have the dream to write and publish a book someday? Unfortunately, they get to the end of their lives and that someday has never occurred. We're here today to try and inspire all of you who have that dream inside your heart to write a book, to get out there and do it this year. So what I've done is I've invited several entrepreneurs from around the world to come on here for this new series. Instead of Who Wants to Be an Entrepreneur, which is our normal one, we're going to do Who Wants to Be an Authorpreneur. So these folks are going to be talking about their journey on writing and publishing their book. They're going to be talking about tips and things that they can keep you from making the same mistakes that they did. So we'll be talking about the good, the bad, the ugly, and of course, we're going to be discussing their books. So I'm very thrilled today to have with me Dr. Sandra Winborne from Pensacola, Florida. She's right across the way from me, and it's so exciting to have somebody local because I was just talking to her that I've got a global reach and a global economy. So I just love being able to bring local people on board with me. So tell us about your background, Dr. Winborne, where you grew up, any hobbies, special interests. What do we need to know about you?
Well, I grew up in the Albany, Schenectady, Troy area of New York, the Tri-City, and I grew up with great parents, and I'm the baby of 10 children, and I was the renegade because I came here as a preemie, but I always had this attitude that I knew more than most and was always interested in finding things out, and I just loved the life that we lived. Was a normal life. We always went to church. We sung a lot as children, the four of us. The last four last name was Gary. And we used to travel around as we could have been probably the Jackson Five, but we'd have been the Gary Four. And we could sing anything as children. We could sing anything 4-part harmony. So as we got older, we just kept that. I went to undergraduate school at Oneonta State University of New York. And I studied education, started as a voice major, and then kind of gravitated over to education, liked it much better because they didn't require me to sing everything that they wanted me to sing. I wanted to sing my own stuff. You know, I'm still young.
Sure.
And so I had a good time. And once I finished all of undergraduate school, I went to graduate school and then married and moved away to Italy, lived in Italy 4 years. And while I was there, I used to sing. I was also a DOD school counselor. And then I went to the Family Service Center as a family relationships counselor. So always worked, always had something to do, always loved music, always loved people, and have always served.
Fabulous. Can I ask you, when you were over in Europe? We were stationed over in Germany. We're a military family. My husband's retired veteran here.
Okay. We were stationed in Italy, and in fact, Sigonella, which is down in Sicily. So we were like maybe 8 miles from Catania. And it was just beautiful. We loved it. And they used to tease me because they said I was a Black Italian because even though I had the color of my skin, I could speak the language pretty good. I've lost it now. I don't have anybody to talk to me. So I'm, but I love their flea markets and their food. Didn't like it when I first got there, but once I adjusted, then I loved the food, loved the flea markets, and loved clothes. I'm a clothes horse, so I always was looking for where can I find the latest scarf, the latest, and I just made it my own. It wasn't that it was the latest for them. They always said, "How do you put those clothes together?" I said, "I just put them together." Just have fun with it.
It's very noticeable because Powerful Women of the Gulf Coast, every time I would attend, I would notice you right away. You would always stand out looking fabulous. So that is your trademark.
Look at what I got on today. I said, and I have on one red earring and one yellow earring. And the reason I did that is because this morning I couldn't decide if I wanted to wear red or yellow. So since they're in the outfit, I put on one of each.
There you go.
I thought I'd give you a little, we'll toss it up a little bit.
So let's move along just a little bit. I can't wait to talk about this fabulous little children's book called Al's 10 Fingers. He used them to play music. So
Yeah.
what prompted you to co-author this book? You know, what's the story behind the story?
The story behind the story is Al Martin is pretty much a well-known musician in this area. And when I was deciding to finish up my doctorate, which my doctorate was looking at examining military credentialing knowledge for the civilian workforce and how could I bring all that together? Well, one of my mentors at my college said, I recommend that you use music since that's your platform. So I use music as, you know, as a way to get information from anyone that I was going to be asking information from randomly, of course. And so I needed to go, I wrote the song, but I needed somebody who could play it. So I went to Al Martin, and he happened to be sick. He wasn't sick at that time, but he was, you know, still having a little trouble. So he decided that he would help me out. And then years later, you know, which was actually in 18, I found out that he wasn't feeling well, and I went to see him, and he was in the hospital, and we just agreed that I went in there working on my book, and when I came out, I had confirmed that I was going to do his book. So I have a bigger book that I'm doing for him, where I've already interviewed 65 people, but this particular book, I just woke up in the middle of the night, and this book was presented to me the next morning. You're going to do that children's book first because he loves working with children, and he trains people from 9 to 91 years old. That's how old his clients have been. So I said, well, okay, Sandra, that's what you're doing. You're going to do Mr. Al's book. So this was his childhood experience of desiring wanting to play music, and he did it and knew that he wanted to do it from 8 years old on.
That is amazing. And one of the things that I absolutely loved about it was it told his personal story, and it gave kind of a tribute to the people and where he bought his instruments and all of those things. So I just thought that was really a neat way to bring everybody into this book, to kind of give everybody.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, I think that what we were trying to do, he told me his story, but you know, most people who are musicians, they're rarely going to write their own story. So when he was telling me his story, I kept saying, well, I think I could get a children's book out of that, but I never, you know, went over to that lane. I stayed in the lane I was in, and then to realize that if I could find an illustrator who's wonderful, if I could find a graphic artist who ended up being wonderful, then I could put this story together. And so that's what happened. That's what happened.
Inside the story, it talks about his childhood, and one of the things was, you know, he asked his parents, and they were very supportive to you know, get him this piano. He promised he would master it in six months, and I don't want to give away the full story because I want folks obviously to buy it. But you know what? It don't matter if we hear the story. You need to buy the book anyways.
Yes, they do.
Because it's a great little story. Right. But I thought was interesting. He got in there, and I also grew up around, I played the piano since I was 4 years old. Okay. My grandparents had a quartet. One of my grandfathers was a song leader at church. And so I was always around the music, and I played in the band, so I could resonate a whole lot with this. But what's interesting is it said in there that he was practicing for 4 hours a day.
Right. They said that his brothers and sisters, like, I think the front cover kind of shows what I was talking about. He would be playing on his piano, and they would be outside playing. And he's the only one of the family, of the 5 of them, who ever picked up the idea that he wanted to play music, and he stuck with it. He's the only one. No one else did anything with music, nothing.
Well, that is amazing for a child to have that innate passion at such an early, I mean, that's truly a God-given gift.
Right.
You know, and that was inside that he, you know, nobody made him to do it. I mean, I remember a lot of kids when they were in band and different thing, their parents had to make them practice for 20 minutes a day. And they thought that was the end of the world because they would rather be doing something else.
Exactly. But and the fact that he knew it, and he would have that discussion with them, because he would always go to his parents and he'd tell them what he wanted to do, and they agreed with him. You know, after some discussion, and that was his point, is that he's hoping that parents will get to understand that their children may know something that they don't know. And that is that if you give me a chance, I'll work with what you give me and I will do something with it. And he said that he wanted to really be the church musician. That's what his ultimate goal was. And that was at 12 years old, he was a church musician.
Wow. So the bottom line result, parents, you need to be listening to your children, look out for their gifts and give them the tools and resources so that they can grow those gifts.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about on that back cover, there was a Times Magazine article. You want to talk about that just a little bit?
Yeah, even when I did my doctorate, I looked at the influence of music on the world. And I looked at it in every different situation, from when we shop to when we go out to dinner, when we set an ambiance at our houses, whatever it is, there's always music in our lives. And it ends up being the backdrop for whatever we do. So I said, well, you know what? The influence on the military has something going on. And I said, and I went to war, and then it came battles, and when they came back from war, and all those kinds of things, and all our patriotic songs. So I said, well, there has to be something surrounding what it does for kids, because I found that too in my dissertation. But this article I love because it's a recent article done in 2014, from Northwestern University by Dr. Krauss, that really talked about how music, not just listening to music. You can be a good listener and you can really get into music, but they said to really let the brain be rewired, and basically how it can change your way of thinking and your ability to absorb information. That is going to come from when you know how to actually manipulate notes, to manipulate the musical notes that you're playing. And so that's why they said to be a person that plays an instrument versus the person who just listens to music, they're going to find that the brain activity of the one who plays the music is going to be at a higher level. And that's what this study was showing. I said, parents, I should have had this for my daughter, although I went out and bought the piano. Okay, we had the discussion and I bought the piano and she still did nothing. I would go to the lessons with her. I would be prepared for my lesson and she wouldn't.
Well, I noticed a lot of I have 8 grandchildren. And so some of the things that I've noticed since my children have been born was that baby Einstein, the music and all of those things. And I have watched how that has been just an amazing platform that these parents are able to use. And I know how powerful that can be. So what is Mr. Al doing now? Is he doing any teaching, or what's he doing?
Mr. Al still teaches. He teaches down at Blues Angel Music. He is an instructor there, and he has students down there, I think, on Tuesdays and Saturdays. He teaches music, and he could actually teach any instrument. It does not matter because he also plays other instruments, as the book will show. So he's just gifted. I feel that he's a Miss Prodigy, but he still plays music now. Occasionally, he's down at the district. He's been over at the backyard on 12th Avenue. So he's still playing. He played for 28 years over at Ramada Inn on Scenic Highway. So he still gets in and he plays every Sunday at Greater Union Baptist Church here in the city. And he fills in for a lot of musicians who want to go on vacation, or they may be out ill or whatever. He plays weddings and parties and all those kinds of things. So still very active.
One of the things that it brought about in the book that I thought was rather interesting was several times he excelled over his instructors.
Right.
So he learned, he took his lessons, and then he superseded those, and he had to go find other instructors. And so again, that tells me that he was a good quality student. He got in there and he listened and he learned, and they had that's all they could do. So they had to move him up to somebody else. And so I can't imagine what an amazing thing to be able to go back and talk to some of those people about that track that he was on, because that is something that you do not hear of every day. So
Right.
let's change directions just a little bit. Let's talk
Okay.
about the process of you becoming a published author. Okay,
Oh,
number one.
yeah, I'm down to one hair when it came to that right there. I was like, oh my God. Because initially I was going to try to look for a traditional publisher and somebody that would kind of lead us in and tell us which way to go. And I said, you know what? I really want to get this done. And so therefore, that means I'm going to have to jump in myself, find out how to do stuff and get it done. So yes, I took all the time to find everybody. I found the illustrator, I found the graphic artist, and getting other people to do stuff for you. They're not always on your timeline because they have their own things that they're doing. So realizing that, I'd practically be sitting outside their doors waiting for them to finish. And they said, okay, Doc, we're going to be finished soon. So I literally did that with them to get those things done and get it up to them. So once I got that done, I had to obviously deal with finishing up the writing of the book and then going on to Amazon, KDP, and finding out what all of that was about. And I have a girlfriend who is a author and a publisher. So she kind of walked me through. She said, no, you got to do this and can't do that. So after I learned the ropes, and I'm telling you, I bugged the Amazon KDP people so much is that I really owe them pizza and, and cold drinks, because I literally bugged them to death until I got it right. The formatting of the cover drove me absolutely buggy. And the reason being is because when you have a lot of pictures and a lot of color, you have to make sure they fall just right. And the formatting tool that they give you to use is very difficult to use at times because it looked on my screen to be correct, but it wasn't. So they would give you these notices, this alert to tell you it was wrong. But eventually it all turned out, I got it right. I went through all the process of putting in all my information to talk about I was the author, I was the person of the owner of the copyright, and also that I was the publisher. And seeing my name in that kind of stuff just really kind of threw me down on the floor and brought me back. I said, "Oh Lord, that's a hallelujah. I didn't know I could do that. I didn't know you had that in there for me, but it was there. It was there." So sometimes you don't know what you can do until you try it. And I think that's what I wrote in the front of the book that says, I learned, I tried, and I completed. That's what it says in the front of the book, because that's what happened. It's a lot of learning you're learning on the spot. But ultimately, if you pursue it and you really mean it, you're going to get done.
I agree. I've self-published several and helped other people do it. And, your first one is always the hardest because, like you said, you're kind of learning the ropes,
Yes.
and each one will get better as you go along. And I think your illustrator did a really great job on the photos. I'm going to be curious because what I would like to do is go and look and see if these pictures of like his parents and him, if they look like him. Was that
Absolutely.
the intent?
That's how Mr. Al looked when he was younger. Yeah.
Okay. I was curious. That was one of the questions.
Always had a lot of hair. And he had those thick eyebrows. And he still has the thick eyebrows now.
Love it.
He still has the thick eyebrows.
And one of the things I want to bring to mention is a lot of people out there who have the desire to write a book. They think they have to have these big novels. Folks, you don't have to. This is a fairly small. It's a children's book. There's like 34
pages.
Yeah, 34 pages. Very well illustrated, beautiful colors, just like children love. The typeset is large, which is very good for one of the things that you probably didn't realize, but because I'm a grandma, I do. It's very important for grandparents to have larger letter text so that we can read to our grandchildren. And besides the fact that children need it, and they can't, depending on their age, they can't read all that text at one time. So that was another thing that I wanted to comment and give you some kudos.
Thank you so much.
Kudos on that. And then another thing interesting, Authorpreneurs that she put in the back, and this is what I always tell folks, she's got a little checklist here on musical instruments for a potential instructor, phone and email. And so that's kind of giving them a cue to go and try and call on people, get quotes or whatever you need to do for your music. She's got a place there for notes.
Mhm.
And then, of course, in the back, she's got the biography for Meet the Authors, along with their contact information. And a lot of authors, they kind of miss that boat. Entrepreneurs, business owners who decide to write, they normally don't miss that boat. But just for the general public, we don't know who's going to be watching this interview. This is primo real estate. This is a marketing tool for you to
Thank you so
use.
much. Thank
So,
you.
yes,
Thank you. I'm happy.
yes, so you need to, really take advantage of that and give people a way to contact you, and what's the next, what would be the next step. And especially if there's going to be a sequel or, something like that, you can give them a teaser. The other thing, Dr. Winnie, and that's what a lot of people call her,
They
by
call
the
me
way.
Dr. Winnie.
Throw
I'm
that
trying to
in.
be formal, but they call me Dr. Winnie.
I had to throw that in. But anyways,
I do.
one of the things that you could do on the digital version, if you have one or if there's one coming.
There's one coming.
Okay, what I would do is I would do some YouTube links to his music. And also something of yours. And so what people could do is then they could click on that and like you guys could be saying, thank you so much for buying our book, doing a little thing like that. And then some examples on, I love small business development. This is what I do. So I love giving ideas, and you can take them or leave them. But anyways, that would be one of the things that I would do, and maybe have a little concert of him, some clips of him playing music, and even you doing some of your stuff. I think that would be super cool.
Yes. On his website, it has on the Al's 10 Fingers, it says it's actually, his website is Al's books, Al Martin books and books music. It doesn't have an "and" in there. Books music. And you will find that his music is on there. He's playing where he was interviewed by UWF to have the local history of people who have really been legendary people of the area. He's now down in the history books on being a local musician with international skill and style. So they did that back in November. So I taped him playing for them, and that's on his website, where you can also order the book.
Okay, we'll make sure that we put all those in the description here.
Mm-hmm.
Can you think of anything that we might have left out that you'd like to make sure that our listeners know about you?
Well, I do. Well, I want to tell you two things. The first thing is the book is, like you said, the book is going real well. I've already been through my second shipment, and I'm getting ready to order a third. Plus, I've looked at the royalties online. They're going gangbusters. It's really going well. I have a couple of interviews for some schools. I've already been to one school. Some other schools are interested. Also, the city, the county have also purchased books. So I'm doing well. I'm doing very well.
What about maybe some homeschool groups? I'm trying to think out loud.
I'm going to try them too. I don't know how I'm going to get to them, but I'm going to figure it out.
Yeah, the homeschool groups, the libraries for their story time, and book clubs. Those are some things that would be fantastic.
Yes.
And of course, and a lot of folks, you may not realize, we live here in Northwest Florida. We have 5 counties within an hour radius. And out of those 5 counties, we have 375,000 households. So a lot of people don't realize that. That is a lot of households right here within 1 hour. And we're not a huge city. I mean, Pensacola is a large city, but compared to across the United States, it's small. Yeah. So we're very fortunate where we are. And of course, we're here home of emerald green water and sugar white sand right here on the Gulf of Mexico. So we are truly in a beautiful, beautiful place. But anyways, Dr. Winnie, I appreciate you coming and joining us today. Thank you for your service to our military and serving our communities overseas, and for everything that you do.
Thank you. I'm going to say one last thing.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right, folks, you heard it here. If you've got that dream inside your heart to become an authorpreneur and publish and write your own book, you need to do it. Thank you again. See you next time. Take care and God bless.